Hello, folks. This is Rob from the Corner Store Podcast. If you're stopping by, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share the content. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and why I think it is a spam movement. And when I say spam, I'm kind of using wordplay. Before I give my commentary, I'm going to give a disclaimer. Now, I don't have any ill will or malicious intentions towards anybody from the LGBTQ community or with Black Lives Matter. All of my critiques are solely based on ideology. I just don't like the fact the way that they try to suppress people's free speech. Excuse me. They use tactics like bullying, cancel culture, and and use phobia labels when it comes to saying people are transphobic or homophobic when they don't agree with their ideology. They're only creating more enemies and they're not creating those bridges that would have more allies. Now, spam, when I say spam, like an email spam, I consider it as unwanted, unsolicited, undesired, and unnecessary as a patriarchal, heterosexual, cisgender Black male. Now, on face value, the movement is supposed to be for all Black people to address police brutality, police reform, and systemic racism, but unfortunately, the mission statement kind of stay otherwise. Secondly, as in the meat spam, which is made of pork from Hawaii, they pork barrel other identity demographics that's going to be to the detriment of Black American progress and to their agenda through the appropriation of funds from mostly white liberals and corporations through the deaths of heterosexual men and women via police killings. As I said before, if you read their mission statement, it gives you a clear picture what their agenda is all about. Now, speaking of the Black Lives Matter mission statement, let me go ahead and share my screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I could probably illustrate my point a little better if you could read along. Here's the Black Lives Matter mission statement. Everything that I'm going to talk about here that's going to be pertinent to the content I have the links in the description box so you can kind of follow along if you choose to on your free time. Now, what's in red is what I'm going to highlight here. First, we're going to go with we are self-reflective and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift Black trans folks, especially Black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence. Now, my theory on trans women's violence is they're being deceptive when they seek relations with heterosexual males and not revealing their transformations. Now, to be technical, this is called rape by deception. Unfortunately, the mainstream media won't ask those type of questions whenever someone from the LGBTQ community or Black Lives Matter try to convey that there's a epidemic of trans women dying in the hands of heterosexual males. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that these women had it coming. I'm only stating my opinion regarding possible motives and why these deaths are happening. Move over to the next point. We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so they can mother in private, even as they participate in public justice work. Now, Black America is operating under a matriarchal social order from absentee fathers, the high single mother rate, low educational expectations, high crime rates, lack of home ownership, etc. I think having a patriarchal mindset, just like other racial groups in this country, is the best solution in bridging the wealth gap, better nuclear family structures, accountability to children as they grow up to be competent adults for the next generation. Let's go to the third point. Now, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure required by supporting each other as systemic families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Again, patriarchy is the best social order in order to have better families. Am I saying that same-sex couples can be as effective as traditional nuclear families? No, I'm not saying that. Now, furthermore, it seems to me that they went out of their way not to mention men at all throughout this whole text. See, like even as the last statement, as far as to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. I mean, just to not even mention fathers. I mean, if I don't mention parents, I think that they're kind of saying parents as in same-sex women or same-sex men parents, but that's just my opinion. And finally, we foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual unless he or she or they disclose otherwise. Now, it seems to me that they seem like that they're making it a crime to be a heterosexual. You know, to me, according to this movement, it seemed like they declared war on, you know, heterosexuality, masculinity, and patriarchy, as you can kind of see what I just read just from those few bullet points. Let me stop here. Now, what propelled me to make this video is that I came across a video from the Roland Martin show when he gave an interview to one of the Black Lives Matter co-founders, Patrisse Cullors. Something unusual happened during the conclusion of the interview. And as I showed the video, you'll kind of see my point. Now, Black Lives Matter, their public perception definitely took a full 180 following George Floyd. Now, as far as the three members, Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi. Now, these three women are Black feminists. They're trained Marxists.
I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories, and
they're part of the LGBTQ community. They all three of them identify as queer women. They come off to me as professional manufactured victims. Now, in fact, you'll be hard pressed to find most Black feminists debating their ideas and critiques on open forum. Now, the media usually don't give them any pushback, whether their claims are legitimate or not. I do give kudos to white feminists, at least, because they're willing to debate like the best of them, like Jordan Peterson, or I mean, there's so many others out there, but like mostly, I mean, you could probably find at least 10 to 15 debates with white feminists with Dr. Jordan Peterson, the scholar and clinical psychologist from Toronto, Canada. Now, let me go ahead and first, I am going to let you hear a clip from the Jesse Lee Peterson show. It's actually an audio clip. This happened on December 23rd, 2014. Just keep that in mind. Now, let me go ahead and share this clip real quick.
I have with me Patrisse Marie Cullors. She is an artist, organizer, and freedom fighter on the Black Lives Matter team. A call to action in response to the way their lives are being devalued. Patrisse, welcome to the show and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you.
All right. How did you get involved with Black Lives Matter?
Actually, myself, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi, after the George Zimmerman acquittal last year, we created the hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Uh-huh.
And we created that hashtag from a place of grief, but also from a place of wanting to declare that Black lives matter, and that is important that we, as a nation, really look at the problems of race in this country. And then, obviously, this year the hashtag has just taken on a life of its own, and myself and Darnell Moore, we co-organized a Black Lives Matter ride to St. Louis Ferguson, the third week after the uprisings there. And so we organized over 600 people, Black people, to drive into St. Louis and Ferguson. We stayed there for 2 days. And I think at that point, the hashtag was brought back to over 20 plus cities.
That's amazing. And you're located here in L.A., right?
Yep, Los Angeles, California.
Explain to us some of the demands of Black Lives Matter.
One of our biggest demands that we're going to be really working on for this upcoming year is calling on local city councils and county governments to look at how they're allocating funding specifically towards law enforcement and not into alternatives in our communities like jobs, housing, access to healthy food. And so we're going to be really trying to pass resolutions at city councils and county governments as well as in Congress to push forward a model that would really look at how we can figure out how our communities can be resourced. That's not just about resourcing law enforcement.
So you're using this occasion to get more government finance or programs into the Black community?
Exactly.
But isn't that's one of the primary reasons that Black people are, not all but most, are so morally bankrupt is because government has been taking care of them for the last 50 or 60 years or so? Government is hurting them rather than helping them. Why do you want more government programs in the Black community?
I think that I don't know if it's government that's been morally bankrupt.
No, well, it's the government that has helped.
Morally bankrupt by the lack of government services.
No, not the lack of. Too much government support has devalued Black Americans.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think there hasn't been enough support. I think especially for me, growing up in Los Angeles, I grew up in poverty and watched my mother work 3+ jobs, barely was able to see her. And as I went to school, I witnessed how mostly communities of color, Black communities, were segregated even in our own schools, tracked into sort of lower education. And I think that the government hasn't actually done enough for Black people.
Amazing. Were you born out of wedlock?
No, I was not.
So your father was in the home?
Yes.
And yet the two of them could not raise a family?
Not with. I don't understand your question. Could not raise a family.
Did your father work?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he worked for GM Van Nuys.
And your mother worked as well?
She sure did.
Well, why were you poor?
I have no idea. I think because we live in a capitalist system that some people have a lot of wealth and some people don't.
You don't support capitalism?
I think what I support is families being able to feed their children regularly. And I think the current system that we live under doesn't allow for all families to live a life of dignity.
Do you support capitalism?
I support systems that support communities, and in this current government, it's not about capitalism or not. I think it's more about who's taken care of and who's not taken care of.
Do you support capitalism?
I'm not understanding your question.
Do you support capitalism or not? She hung up. Yep. She hung up. James, get her back. See if she'll come back.
So you heard it from the horse's mouth. As I will show a video later, as far as her saying that she is a trained Marxist rather. Now, there will always be social programs available for people who need a hand up. And by Black Lives Matter being a Marxist organization, I will keep on just messing that word up. By them being a Marxist organization, they're just really wasting our time. I mean, America operates under a capitalistic economic infrastructure that will not go anywhere anytime soon. So, but all right, let me go ahead and show this other video. Now, this is going to be with Roland Martin, as I stated before. Something unusual happened at the end of the clip, and it's going to illustrate my point better. 1 second.
Got to ask you this question because it has come up. We run some videos. We've broken this thing down. And that is, and this has come up a lot, and it needs to be asked because it needs to be answered. And I'm looking at a lot of the comments on Facebook, a lot of the comments that are on YouTube, and that is the folks who say this is not, that this is being co-opted as a gay agenda. This is not a black.
Now, Roland Martin, he is a established journalist, and by him to say, hey, I have to ask this question because people on Facebook or social media have some questions for you. I mean, Roland, you are a trained journalist. You don't have to give the impression that, oh, these questions are coming from people from social media. I mean, everything that they pretty much laid out in their mission statement, you could just flat out say, hey, are you pushing for a gay agenda? You don't have to put the onus on people from social media. It actually made no sense.
Agenda. And again, I'm looking at what people are saying, and so how do you answer that to people who say, wait a minute, why is this a gay agenda and not a black agenda? How do you answer those people who say that?
Well, I start with saying that there's no such thing as a gay agenda. And that Black people are queer and trans, we're bi, we're pan, we're all of the things, we're all of the LGBTQ plus rainbow. And we can't have a conversation about Black people without having a conversation about all the things that we are. And so this idea that there is a gay agenda, I think, is a homophobic idea.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Yes, Black people, yes, they are gays, they're straight, they're trans, there's queer. I mean, there's a rainbow label that you could pretty much put across Black people. But I mean, as far as them starting Black Lives Matter to address police misconduct, if a police stop any Black person, they're not going to say, hey, what is your sexual orientation? That has nothing to do with it. I mean, we all have dark skin. We all are Black people. So that's not what the police see. The police don't see your sexual orientation. They just see your Black skin. So I just don't like the fact that how she kind of conveyed that point.
And I think it's really important that we are able to challenge when people say that and say that we have to fight for all Black people. We have to fight for all Black lives.
There's something in that short little span as far as when she was giving a diatribe. She must have said something that she wasn't supposed to say out on YouTube. Actually, this is a YouTube show, so it wasn't from mainstream media. But Roland Martin has a YouTube show. But she said something that she wasn't supposed to say, and whoever was in her background kind of would just tell her to kind of like shut up or wrap it up. I'll rewind a little bit, and you're going to see like a silhouette, and like a picture frame, and her towards like the top left hand part of the screen. Let me go ahead and rewind this.
Gay agenda, I think, is a homophobic idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that we are able to challenge when people say that and say that we have to fight for all Black people. We have to fight for all Black lives.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
Oh no, I thought I heard this finger snapping. I thought you had cut off. I thought it had cut off, and so I was kind of like, no, you're still live. You're still live.
Now, I get that when people get interviewed, they're going to get pre-screened questions. And every question he asked her, if you notice, she's going to look off to her right side and like literally read every single thing that she's going to highlight and pretty much her commentary. And then once the finger snapping happened, then she kind of looks towards Roland Martin and the computer screen. But let me go ahead and rewind this again. It's a very short video. It's just like a minute, 37 seconds. I'll go ahead and play the whole thing without interruption.
Got to ask you this question because it has come up. We run some
See,
videos.
she's looking
We've
at him
broken this thing
now
down.
on a computer screen.
And that
And
is,
as
and this
she's
has come up a
answering her
lot, and
question, she's
it
going to
needs
look
to
off
be
to her
asked
right.
because it needs to be answered. And I'm looking at a lot of the comments on Facebook, a lot of the comments that are on YouTube, and that is the folks who say this is not, that this is being co-opted as a gay agenda. This is not a black agenda. And again, I'm looking at what people are saying, and so how do you answer that to people who say, wait a minute, why is this a gay agenda and not a black agenda? How do you answer those people who say that?
Well, I start with saying that there's no such thing as a gay agenda. And that Black
she's
people
reading her
are
whole
queer
statement
and
right there.
trans,
Everything.
we're bi, we're pan, we're all of the things, we're all of the LGBTQ plus rainbow. And we can't have a conversation about Black people without having a conversation about all the things that we are. And so this idea that there is a gay agenda, I think, is a homophobic idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that we are able to challenge when people say that and say that we have to fight for all Black people. We have to fight for all Black lives.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
Oh no, I thought I heard this finger snap.
I swear, every time I hear that, it just makes me laugh. As I stated before, we heard Jesse Lee Peterson interview on December 23rd of 2014. To my recollection, she hasn't had any type of hostile interviews that's going to give her any pushback on any of her talking points. And in a clip in which she said that she's a trained Marxist, that happened on the Real News Network, which happened on July 23rd of 2015. And then the Roland Martin clip that happened on July 13th of this year, 2020. So since Jesse Lee Peterson, she kind of smartened up and decided not to go any type of hostile interviews in which, you know, she could kind of spew anything that she want to get out to the masses, which is unfortunate. I mean, people just got to do their research just to make sure that that they're not pulling the okie doke. So anyway, I mean, I guess it is what it is, but you know, people just gotta be well informed and try to catch these things and just not fall for it. Well, yeah. So this is just my commentary as far as what I think about Black Lives Matter. I mean, this movement is not for Black people; it's for the LGBTQ community. It's not for all Black people. So, anyways, that's my commentary, and I will hope to see you all soon. Later.